No, you just put it right back in the signature folder. Thank you.
Somebody shut that phone off, please.
The second issue I want to just go over with you was a memo from Mike Sorgan, a town engineer, to Greg for your package on the status of Route 62. That came up at your last meeting.
Okay.
Mass Highways closed that job out. I think the biggest, the ADAs was addressed. There was an order of conditions for conservation, which we supplied the plans, and Mass Highways on the hook for replication of wetlands. The only other issue I think that's still maybe an itch to the board is the poles. And our MLD has moved the poles that they can move. There is a number of poles. I believe there's 5 poles that they need additional land right off the back to walk. They need easements. So they've come back to us. And this is a conversation that Mike had with them last week. They want the town, through its public works, to acquire the easements, and they'll be happy to move the poles. So
These are easements on private
property. So we will make that effort, and hopefully we'll have some cooperation with the homeowners for that purpose. It won't be a lot of land. It'll be like a rectangular portion of land just to move the poles back, kick them back, or move them forward, back and forward.
Yeah.
Whatever that count is. I thought it was just 5.
Oh, good, Jim's here. If I could, Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
But whatever the amount
Oh, I'm
is,
sorry, I
to
didn't mean
make
to
the
interrupt you.
ADA requirement work, that's what we're dealing with.
Okay. So the number 5 may not be correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever it is.
Joe.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Dave, on number 2, and Jim, excuse me, Jim DeCola, I'm glad you came back in the room. It says the second issue dealt with the sidewalks and wheelchair ramp construction. In general, these issues were corrected to our satisfaction. Are we all set on 62, Jim, with the handicap accessible, all the issues we had?
As far as I know, everything's been correct.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that, because,
Well, with the exception of some poles that are on the
yeah,
side.
no, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
there's still a few
Yeah,
poles
yeah.
that have to be.
But I mean, the grades and the angles are all set.
We're all
Oh, good,
correct.
good,
Okay.
good.
Anything else, Dave?
I'd like
I'm
to
sorry,
make-
Steve.
Yeah, I'd like to, again, the board to go on record again, insisting that we take every effort as soon as possible to ensure, get these easements in order to finish off the project and make sure that the sidewalks are clear. Some of these things are really smack dab in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Oh, they are.
how it got to that stage without, through the construction phase, without being corrected.
Well, if you look at the history in terms of trying to get utilities, all the utilities that are on poles, and then if they're angle poles, to try to get them moved in a timely fashion in a project, even of that length, you know it's not easy. And the state got to a point where that they were not going to just tolerate pulling that job out for those poles. So they closed the job out anyway. We don't want to get into well, it's still their responsibility. The district has said, we're out. So that's fine. We've had some other work that we've had to finish up on their behalf, and we'll be glad to pursue this on behalf of your request.
Steve?
Yeah, again, I think we should just take a strong position.
And we may need a strong position from the board as we go forward if we get some resistance.
Resistance being from homeowners.
I was thinking more RMLD, but we may need some assistance with the homeowners, yeah.
So,
I mean, at first, I think if you can't get the easements, then what do we do?
We'd have to take them.
Then we have to take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do is probably, when we originally had the land takings, right-of-way acquisitions associated with the project, we had all the people that were affected in for a meeting, and we'll probably do the same thing with this once we get, identify how big parcels from RMLD to make this all work. We'll have folks in, maybe a couple of members of the board.
Well,
who attend
to
at the
keep
meeting.
this thing on target, then maybe we should ask, and you tell us how much time would be required to at least identify
I'd like to have it set up
those,
for our April town
the
meeting.
number of poles and the easements required, just get a listing of those, so at least we have
But
a
I'd like
beginning
to, I'd like
point.
to have, timeline be April town meeting with the goal of
Getting-
either acquiring or
Taking.
taking
Yeah.
of the easements.
Is that enough time?
Yeah. Make that effort.
So, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
So, Dave, are we going to sign off now on 62?
We didn't sign anything, but Mass Highway sent us a letter saying they're done.
So are we going to sign off, or are we going to wait?
We're not signing off on this.
Okay, that's first curious, okay.
Our position is
Yep. You're not-
incomplete.
Yeah, okay.
So therefore, the light at April and
Stays for a while.
April and May.
Till we own it.
62. There'll be no right on red at midnight.
And on the next item was the approval of the amended affordable housing restriction.
This is completes now the,
Yes.
so that, with the DHCD is now approved the, and
Units.
allowing us to count the 406 apartments
Right.
against our 40B requirement.
File it as soon as your signature is on it.
Steve?
I'm just curious as to how we got to this point now, when we were already approved for the 40B, the 40R, received the funds, received the money.
It's called
And now they're saying, unless you amend everything and change it, we're not gonna say that you've got the approval. They paid us all the cash.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been designated as affordable.
Right.
We get $3,000 per unit because of the 40R and the 40.
Stephen, you work for the Commonwealth of Mass.
Yes, I know. Yeah. No, it's just,
Another state
they just
agency
all of
that
a
we-
sudden,
Steve,
they're
is-
changing the rules,
Oh, they,
not even midstream. This is,
without doubt,
this is after the fact, and
without
after
a
they
doubt.
paid.
Right. Painful. But we're there. And fortunately, we didn't have any projects coming in that window. We would have been,
It doesn't appear as though these modifications are of any major consequence or substance either.
no,
No, they're more
Am I
impact on
missing
Lincoln
something?
properties.
no, you're not.
I'm not missing anything.
No, not at all.
It's just more of the same. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow they came back with some other requirement. You know, just, I'm being skeptical, but we've lived with it for a year and a half.
We have.
So, now we have a motion. Any other questions? Mr. Harris?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the First Amendment to Affordable Housing Restriction and Regulatory Agreement between Lincoln North Reading LLC and the Town of North Reading dated December 5th, 2007.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Michael has raised the question, do we need this
This needs to
notarized?
be notarized, it says here, a couple times over. Since
Yeah,
Madam
I
Clerk
guess
is
we
here,
do. What?
if you would be so kind.
Sure, we can. Thank you, Barbara.
And this is just you.
Well, seems like the request for notarized documents is tweaked up by about tenfold compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
We'll wait to sign it so that Barbara can witness it. Next item on our agenda while we're waiting is the bonfire approval. Did I see? Yes, I did. Mr. Hall.
Evening. Mark Hall, President of NRISA, which is the fundraising end of North Reading Youth Services. We're proposing bringing back the bonfire on New Year's Eve down at Ipswich River Park. I have approvals from Parks and Rec and also the Fire Department. They're both here. And along with the bonfire, we wanted to have hay rides with a tractor-drawn hay rides similar to what they do at the middle school at Halloween,
And this is going to be when?
New Year's Eve,
From, I know, but...
6 p.m. to
6
midnight.
6 to midnight.
It'd be a family event.
And in terms of security, both police and fire, maybe we can hear from the chiefs as to what the plan would be and what the cost would be. I
Fire
assume
first.
the cost is gonna be paid for by,
We're required to have 2 firefighters on site at all times. They need to be paid for that, or they can choose to volunteer, which we're hoping they will. We're right near a fire hydrant, which works out pretty good.
where's the plan to put the fire?
In the park, there's an area where the future septic system's gonna go, and it's to the right of the kids' playground, out in the middle of that big arena.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda near the walkway somewhat, enough to be within 100 feet of that fire hydrant.
Is it gonna have to restrict parking in that area
The parking will be in the parking lot.
Right.
up front?
This is out back part.
Oh, okay.
This is out by the tennis courts.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was.
A little beyond the tennis courts as you walk in from the parking
Okay.
lot.
I had pictures of the location.
Oh, yeah. Well, we chose some other spots, but their lawn is too nice down there to ruin. So with this potential septic system coming along, everybody agrees that would be the best spot for it.
Okay. Police, fire chief,
I was just gonna ask,
Yeah.
because Mark, I'm sorry if you did answer, I didn't hear the answer to Bob, but if you do have to hire police and fire, Narissa will be paying for the details?
Yes, if we can't get volunteers.
If you can't get volunteers, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I would expect, from a public safety standpoint, the police department presence is going to be important too.
Very,
Yeah.
because of
Just
alcohol and
because
beverages, et cetera.
in the proximity, and I would, even 4th of July, that whole back area is closed off, they control it. How come you didn't propose to do it up front, close to the Central Street, that big area there?
Well, we originally did, but.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, well, Marty and I walked around, come up with this spot, which actually works out pretty good for the hay rides, especially where you go around in the big circle, and you can still see the fire and everybody around it from the ride. So it's more about the lawn than anything, I guess, destroying another part of the park somewhere else. It just seemed like the most logical spot.
And then as far as raising funds, how are you gonna raise money? You gonna charge admission?
Admission at where the ballards are.
Right.
Yeah.
what's the fee gonna be?
We're not sure yet, but it's not gonna be much. We're gonna ask for a small admission fee and then hope people will donate more. It's gonna be a main fundraiser from Narissa, and we hope it's an annual thing. We believe this year will be small. We believe it. I don't know how the turnout will be, but in the years to come, we're hoping it grows into a regular annual event that people look forward to.
Let people bring their Christmas trees? Right up in North Conway, they do that.
That's
Bring
not
a
a bad
Christmas tree.
idea.
Bring a Christmas tree and let it go. It goes up great. Richie, what are you shaking
I
your
see
head
the
for?
fire chief shaking his head.
They go up great.
Get that idea,
Up in North-
Steve.
No, up in North Conway, they do that. They have a bonfire with, bring a Christmas tree and throw it on the fire.
We don't wanna burn the town
No,
down.
no, put it in a big pile, drop it off earlier and watch them go up. Yeah.
We melt in the building.
We do plan to have a barbecue grill there and sell Italian sausages or what have you, and try to make money off of that too.
Is that recreation that's gonna do that, or?
It's really all Narissa, but there's some volunteers from Recreation, I think, that are gonna be involved.
Will a permit be needed for the barbecue?
I think they already have a permit down at that location to run the concession stand.
Yes, but I thought that was Parks and Recreation, that's why I asked the question. This is another group.
Don't know.
You can work that out, though.
Oh, just, I'm raising these things